right. So you see, I'm never you're never too old to learn to do things. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it very much. All right. So I was talking about the focus assessment. So I will be talking about that a little bit later on. And then the BioLink brand, the business is started in 2008. This year we will be 18 years old, and currently we have around about 43 agencies around South Africa. Um, just want to give you a little bit a broader background about the business and where it started and why it started. So Karen, her eldest son, Hendra, he's 26 this year. Way back when in his early years, I think he was about 5, 6, he was first diagnosed with ADHD, and then just like a year or so later on, he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. So he's got Asperger's syndrome. And I, as a sister, could remember it so clearly the day she got home from school. Um, and she said she had such an awful meeting at school. There was all the different types of disciplines there, speech therapists, OTs, you name it, all of them were sitting there. And all of them were telling her, put him in a special school. He will never relate to anything, or he will never become anything. And I think as a parent, for somebody to hear that, it should have, I mean, I saw her, she was devastated, but luckily, she's not a person that gives up. And Dion, her husband, is a scientist. So they knew Henry was going to have certain challenges. And they knew, to be proactive, to go and look at what is out there, what other technology or things are out there that can actually help Henry to become the best person he is, and to help him with the challenges that he's going to face. And that is when they actually came across the Play Attention. That's the technology that we use in South Africa. And they brought it they bought the technology and started to work with it with Hendry, and got amazing results. The first thing they saw was actually the improvement in his sensory processing issues that he had. And long story short, like a very good South African business that starts in the garage, this one started in the garage. She started helping other parents' children, and it actually blossomed into this wonderful business that we have today. So I joined Karen about 13 years ago. Before that, I was more working more in the medical field. But it's a wonderful journey to be on. It's a wonderful environment to work on, to actually be a business or a company that actually can make a difference in people's lives. So that's just a little bit of a background about our business and BioLink and where we come from. And this takes me to explaining a little bit more about, but why do we exist? Why are we there, and why are we so passionate to still go on after 18 years? It's because kids are struggling, and children are our passion, and we see them. They are struggling more and more each and every day. They struggle with their focus, paying attention in class. They struggle with memory. When they study, they can't remember. It plays a role in a whole lot of different things that children need to do. Emotions, the very high ups and lows of emotions that kids are experiencing. Self-doubt, low self-esteem, not motivated at all. And then, of course, school pressure. That is it never stops. The school pressure is just increasing and increasing every day. And then parents, we as parents as well, is how what can we do, or how do we feel? So homework battles. I can remember as well, you get home from school and you're tired, and you maybe got other children as well, and then it's a fight. It leads to a fight, because I know we as parents, we don't want to fight with our kids. We want to help our children, but it leads to fights and it leads to meltdowns. And teachers are calling us and are raising certain concerns. And we try everything to help our kids, and that is where BioLink are positioning ourselves. So we would like to see ourselves as part of the team, helping children, helping teachers, and helping parents, and be the hand that takes everybody, and to give a better positive outlook, so that there is hope and there is solutions. And I'm going to show at the end a little bit more about what we do as well. So if we look at the challenges, so who's the client? So who are we working with? So we work with children as young as 5 years old, because that's where some of that's the crucial part, is working with the younger kids, where we need to start developing and teaching them different skill sets. And of course, because of the age we are actually now in, is that we need to really put more effort in when we work with younger kids. Then we work with teens, parents, teachers, schools, adults, and seniors. So that's actually what I just explained, is we like to, we work with everybody. And then especially families that deal with ADHD specifically. Recent data shows that the increase from 2016 to 2019, the average prevalence of diagnosis of ADHD was about 8.5%. So it means 8.5% of kids in your class actually has got ADHD. And it's now the latest data that's available. It's 2023. It's increased significantly to 10.5%. So the prevalence is becoming more and more. Don't want to go into too much detail. I am going to do a webinar next month where I'm going to delve a little bit deeper. More on the brain level, the deeper brain level of why we see it, what's happening inside of the brain, and what's the impact of screen time, and also the artificial intelligence that's happening now, that has got a dramatic impact on the cognition of our children. So, but that's just to say, just to mention, that's the next month talk I'm going to do. But ADHD, our learning struggles, poor concentration, weak memory, and low confidence. So that's mostly when children come to us, is usually because of behaviors that are seen at home or then in the classroom. And this is what our kids experience. So this is the feelings. They try, but they can't concentrate. And again, when I do my next talk, you'll understand why. A child never ever goes in the class with the intention to not listen to the teacher, but it depends on what's happening on brain level, if he can't or if he won't. And that's a very important thing to remember, because they do want to, but they do struggle to concentrate. Then meltdowns over homework. I see in a lot of parent groups where I'm in, that I'm in, parents talking about the big load, the load of homework and things that children need to do, and a day is only so much. But these kids experience meltdowns over homework. Slow reading, that's something that we also see a lot, is reading is also a big problem, but not only reading, the poor comprehension of not understanding what they are reading. So they struggle a lot with that. And in our study method course, we've developed our own formula to actually help address the poor reading comprehension by teaching children how to identify if they don't read with comprehension because they don't realize it, and also then what to do. But that's a big problem that they struggle with. Forgetting instructions, that's what they experience in class. So it might be that things are going too fast. The teacher says, go and sit, take out your book, open by page number 7, and let's start with activity number 5. So if everything goes too fast and processing is slow, the child's not going to remember, and then he's the one that is going to maybe ask you, what should he do again? Or, and it might come across as the child didn't listen, which is not necessarily true. And then, yes, they've got big emotions and little control over it. And like I said, low motivation. If they hear so much, you can't, you're never good enough. They lose motivation and they become very don't have a good how they feel about themselves, and they feel different, or they feel behind. So that is why we see a lot of these behaviors, but it's not necessarily the behaviors. The behaviors is the result of the cognitive skills gap that plays, that's the problem. So to explain this to you, we've got we call it our BioLink, our thinking tree of how things actually how it looks and how you should look at it. So if we look at a beautiful tree with beautiful leaves and flowers or fruits, whatever, and it's a healthy tree, it's the same if we look at a child, for instance, and we want a child to be able to have the ability to pay attention. They need to be able to know how to learn and remember and analyze information. We want them to be able to regulate their emotions, sit still, don't fidget, be able to be good readers, solve problems, and we want them to do all of these things. And if they struggle with one of these areas, the result is usually the behaviors that we are seeing. So you must constantly tell them, start now, start with the task. You have to remind them constantly. It looks like that children that doesn't want to listen to you, they fidget, they talk, they are calling out. They can do one thing today, tomorrow they can't. If they get home, and they need to do schoolwork, they have to go and sit and start. But then the moment they sit, they need to go somewhere and go and fetch something else before they can start. So there's a lot of these typical behaviors and things that we see. Struggle with math, reading, sending them to the room to bring something, and they come back with something else, or they don't even come back. Anything like that in school, multiple step directions that you give them. So we see all of these behaviors, but now we have to go and look much deeper and see, but why are we seeing these behaviors? Because these behaviors need specific brain skills. And that is what we call our cognitive skills. And on our tree, that is the root. So that's everything that's below the ground that we cannot see. So it needs to be a healthy root in order for the brain, the stem of the what do you call now, the tree trunk, sorry, the tree trunk to be healthy in order for the leaves to be well. So we need to go, and that's where your cognitive skills development starts. And that actually starts the moment a baby is born, and it depends on what the child was exposed to. Maybe he wasn't in pre-primary school. Maybe the parents didn't know how to help him to develop all of these things, especially now, screen time, phones, AI, all those stuff has an immense impact on what we see with kids. And of course, because kids don't go and play outside anymore and climb trees and do things. So if we go and we look at the cognitive skills, the underneath, the roots, that is the skills like attention, to be able to pay attention. And there's different types of attention. You've got sustained attention, where you need to have the ability to, it says sustain your attention for a period of time, even if it's boring or even if it's mundane, to be able to do that. And then you've got divided attention, where you need to be able to pay attention while doing two things simultaneously. And selective attention, where you need to be able to do something while there's distractions around you and filtering it out. The same with perception and logic and reasoning. That is all skills, brain skills, that children need in order for them to do all the stuff that we actually want them to do in school, academically. And then, of course, your memory, your short-term memory, remembering things like a name, or something that uh, uh, um, a task that you given them, that they must remember now and immediately go and do. Retaining the information, short-term memory, maths, something like that, in order to organize and analyze that information and then go do the task. Long-term memory, you've got your spatial memory. Spatial memory, again, example for me is to explain is if you've put your keys somewhere and then you recall in your mind, oh, where did you do? So you basically retrace your steps. So the same happens. They use this when they use you use spatial memory and on an academic level as well. And everything that you do, how fast you process information, and that can be visually and auditory. How fast the information is coming in, your brain process it, and then the task can be done. So that's the basis. That is the basic brain skills, cognitive skills. And they don't work, they all work together. And if one of them is weak, it impacts all of them. But your cognitive skills, that basic one, that forms the basis for your executive functioning skills, which is the next level. So this is here, you can see this as your higher cognitive skills. So this is where the child will now be able to do some planning and prioritizing and organizing on a brain level, task initiation, starting a task and finishing a task, being more organized, control your impulses, have a better self-monitoring and self-regulation of the emotions. And then, of course, working memory, which is one of the most important cognitive skills that a child must be able to do. So all of them work together. Working memory is something like, if I can give an example, is where the child needs to firstly be able to pay attention. Then he needs short-term memory, for example, to retain the task that was just given, analyze and organize it in his mind, make sense of it, and then finish the task. So all of this cognitive and executive functioning skills plays a role. If they are not well developed, the child is going to struggle with all of the above. And then we see the behaviors. Now, the good thing is that all is not lost, that the brain can always learn something new. So the brain is neuroplastic, so it doesn't matter on what age we started learning something new. The brain can actually form new neurological pathways and learn something, and then we can address and improve the challenges. The executive functioning age, this I want to show you. This sometimes is also an eye-opener. If you look at specifically children with ADHD, their executive functioning age is definitely different than their peers. And it's usually about 2 to 3 years. So I just want to show you for an example. So let's take a child in grade 4. So there's a true age. So he might be 9 or 10 years old, depending on where in the year we are tracking now. But that's his true age. But his executive functioning age, which means the brain skills that that child have is about 3 years younger. So if that child actually functions on a 6 year or 6.5 year old child's level. Now you can imagine having a group of kids the same age, but you've got children diagnosed with ADHD. We expect the same of them, but these children really can't do it. It's not they won't, you remember, it's because they can't. And it actually um, if we don't do anything about it, it actually just goes on and on and on, and they really are behind all the way. So you can see here, even in on a true age of 26, on executive functioning level age, what that child is doing in his brain processes and thinking processes is only 18 years old. So that is something also to consider. So what do we do at BioLink, and what is our approach? What do we do to help the children that struggles? As well, we've got a simple brain-based pathway where we first need to understand the brain, then we need to strengthen those cognitive and executive functioning skills, and then we need to apply everything that we've taught them now to real life. And that is where I'm want to move over to, but understand the brain. And this is the focus assessment I spoke about earlier. So the focus assessment is a CPT. CPT stands for a computerized performance test. So it's done on a computer. It's not, it doesn't take a language into consideration, because it's just a simple task that the person needs to do. It's a 20-minute assessment where there's actually a yellow, like this yellow star, that's on the computer, that comes out when it's solid. The student will press the space bar once, as fast as they see it, and when it's not solid, to omit pressing the space bar. But then there's also built-in auditory and visual distractions to see, but what is the impact that has on a child's attentional control. Now, the focus assessment we developed specifically because we wanted to have a measurement that's totally objective. We don't want to take somebody's opinions into place, because sometimes it might be difficult, to remove that. So this is a true scientific measurement of attentional control. And if we look at what attentional control is, it's basically the things that has been looked at when we diagnose children with ADHD or children struggling just with attention. So it will be attention, which in this case, in our study, is on our form, is consistency, the ability to see in a 20-minute time what is that child's ability to pay attention in that period of time. And I must say, this is a very, very boring assessment, because in children will be able to pay attention when they've get, I call it like a dopamine fix. So then it's when they play TV games and things they enjoy, they can do it for hours. But the moment something is boring, mundane, and repetitive, that's usually when these challenges start to come out. So it's attention, and then we also got measure performance, which is our processing. So we measure the processing speeds, how quickly the individual can process information, and then, of course, impulse control, and then the added auditory and visual distractions. So this is an example of a student, just to show you how the assessment actually looks, and how powerful the assessment is for you as a parent to understand your child, but also for a teacher working with a child in classroom to understand what the challenges is this child are experiencing. So if we look at the two building blocks, which is consistency and performance. So consistency is attention, performance is processing. This is two positive building blocks. So we want students or individuals to have the ability to pay very well attention and to process information. This purple line here is the norm group. So we've got data comparing a 9-year-old boy compared to other boys in the same age group. So this is not an assessment to measure is something wrong. This is an assessment to measure the aspects to see where the child is currently laying and what we can do to improve it. So here we can see in a 20-minute time span of this assessment, this little boy's um, consistency was about 8%. So if we should do the calculation and work out, but how many minutes is that? It will be like 1 or 2 minutes. Now, again, it's important to remember that attention is not something that comes and you'll pay attention for the first 2 minutes and then it's gone. Attention is something that actually fluctuates. So you can pay attention and bring yourself back, pay attention and bring yourself back. But here we can see how his attention level, and the same here with his processing. So a very low processing speed. So this child, of course, in class is going to struggle with pay attention. It's always going to be late, always never going to finish his work, always going to ask, what must I do next? There can be lots of typical behaviors associated with these two building blocks. Then if we look at impulsivity, we do not want you to be impulsive. So this is a negative building block. So the blue now must go back to the left-hand side. So he is very impulsive, but it's very interesting to see if we look at data, and it's basically the same. We update our data all the time. If you can see at the purple, children on 6, 7, and 8, all of them are impulsive because they have not yet learned the skill to wait, think, and then react. So that's something that we often see a lot is impulsivity, and of course, along with that comes other challenges, risky behaviors, um, talking out of turn, making careless mistakes, things like that. And then on the right-hand side, we can see the distraction part. So again, we all have a normal ability to filter distraction. So that means while I'm talking to you and a dog is barking outside, I can stay on task and not lose my attention and stay focused because I can filter it out, even though I do hear it. But this now goes two ways. So it can either be you filter too much, so you totally block off, so everything, the blue, go to the left. And that means the child's into a bubble. There's this old saying like, he's there, but nobody is home. Or it can be far too right, which means all the sensory inputs and stuff is so overwhelming. It also influences this child. So gives us a very good starting point when we do start to work with a child to get a scientific measurement. This is our starting point. Do a full discussion with the parent, because we do have questionnaires and other things that we also take into consideration, and then put a plan in place for that specific child. So what do we do? I'm going to show you a video. We wanted to do a live one, but now you've heard my better half, my other half. My husband's my better half. She's my other half. We wanted to do it live, but I do have a video to show you. So what do we do? So I want you to think back to that tree, always, or think back to that tree. So our program is a NASA-inspired brain training program where we actually force the brain into a level of alertness. So if we look at the brain and we look when the brain is in alertness, again, I'm going to go in my next webinar, I'll go into a little bit more into deeper understanding brain waves. But if we look at your brain waves, if your theta brain waves is very high, then you are very relaxed. You're watching television, there's no mental effort. So you are aware of the television, but you might miss something. And that's why you also can fall asleep in front of the television. But when you are in beta that's when you are actually actively engaged. And that is what we do with our BioLink program and with this technology, is that we actually put the brain in an active engagement, in a beta brainwave state. And you're going to see now why and how we do it is because if the child or the student is not actively engaged, the exercises will not work. Now, the other thing to take in consideration is when I tell you to pay attention, it's abstract. So what does it mean? Children often tell me, I must sit still and I must keep quiet. That's their perception of paying attention. But it's actually not. It's actually something that happens on brain level, where the brain must be activated by doing something like this, doing something new, and we are doing certain brain skills. So our exercises that we do are all of them are cognitive exercises. So you will remember, I'm just going to point out a few before I show you the how it actually works is, but if we look at attention stamina, it's basically it teaches the brain. It's like, think of the brain like a muscle. It teaches the brain to pay attention for longer periods of time, especially when something is boring or when they need that you need to have a little bit of a mental effort to make you strong, to make the brain stronger to pay attention and then start and finish tasks. So that's attention stamina. Visual tracking again is an exercise where we can help the child to pay attention, but also pay attention while watching moving objects. So even something as simple as a teacher moving around in a class can be very distracting for some kids. It also helps with strengthening the eye muscles for reading and reading fluency, helping kids on the sports field where they need to pay attention and move. There is the short-term memory that I spoke about. Spatial memory, working memory. We've got 12 different types of exercises that we do. The explanation or the example I'm going to show you now is time on task. So time on task is an exercise that teaches children to start a task and finish a task by seeing, if I start a task, pay attention and don't get distractions, I can actually finish the job much quicker. So all our exercises are cognitive exercises, but like I said, when I tell a child pay attention, he doesn't know what he should do. So we must make it real for a child. So with our technology, the child can actually now see, am I in an attentive state? Am I in the here and now, or am I not? And then guiding the child back into that attentive state. So I'm going to show you a video that Gordon did, so you can see Gordon. So this is an example of how the technology works.
I think to know that this armband device doesn't do anything. It only does just what brain is, and it sends that information to the program. It's like a Fitbit. Okay, I always say it's like a communication. It has 3 sensors that track all brain activity in real time. It does. Now, when we are on beta, that's when we are totally focused and we are the here and now.
Okay, that's it. I'm just
like being that's part of so now all that's going to
okay. So the sound, just see if this sound, sorry, just see if this sound is maybe better because I've got another video.
earlier we talked about technology that sounds like
Now it's just big sound.
this is a new development. Just like for years.
Okay.
So Shell sells more.
Okay, guys, so what I'm going to do is I will be sending you an email with the link. Rather, it doesn't help. I'm playing. You don't know why the sound is not. it's not good. I will do. Okay, yeah. Thanks, guys. All right. So what I will do, because I will be sending you an email, but I'm going to send you an email um tomorrow with a link so that you can see the technology in action. I'm very sorry about that, but what I wanted to show you, I can show you on this. So that's the body wave armband. At the back of the body wave armband is three little sensors. So it's EEG. So that measures brain activity. So it actually only measures the difference between beta and theta. So when the child is not paying attention, it's theta. So then the specific exercise is not going to, it's not going to work. So when the child is in beta, then the exercise is going to work. So for instance, time on task, there's like a little truck and then there's crates. So this exercise is only done, and attention stamina, a few of them actually are only done by mind alone. So by only paying attention, the student or the child will be able to move the crate and then finish the task, which is actually quite amazing if you think of you being able, the children are always amazed to think, if I tell them your mind, your brain is now the the mouse of the computer, and they do it on their own. It's like, wow, they can't believe it. But that's, and the child then gets the feedback. There's that, like you'll see in the video, I'll give you a very good explanation tomorrow, but there's like a red little bar that the child can see. So the moment it goes fully red, the exercise will then play. The moment the bar goes it goes white again, it means he's not in an attentive state. And then we teach the child to pay attention, to filter out all this distractions that is happening all around him, and stay on task while practicing specific cognitive skills. I'm sorry about this. But I'll send the link to you tomorrow. It's like a little bit of like a 3-minute video, and then it's going to make sense. So luckily now you've seen Karen.
Now it's important to know that this
Sorry, let me just go on. Okay, so what happens when we do train the brain? Now, first of all, I need to say that when we train the brain and we do what we do, it's not a quick fix. There's no such thing as a quick fix. And parents come and, everybody wants a solution now, and it must be better now or tomorrow. It doesn't work like that, because we work with individuals. All of them are different. The program is individualized for each and every student. So although they do the same exercises, the artificial intelligence called Sheer Genius built in the background starts to gather data and then auto adjust the level of difficulty for the specific child. So you always want, when we teach the brain a new skill and do new brain pathways, we always want the brain to be able to pay attention, and then also to have challenge, but not so much that the child doesn't get it right and they struggle. And I must say, we have, I don't know if there's parents on here that maybe children are already doing the Viling sessions, but there's agents here. It's really difficult, and it's actually very tiring to do the exercises. It's not easy, these exercises. But what happens is when we can practice and build this skill. So we work 60 hours with children. I'm going to show you what's included in our program. It's the same as teaching them. I'm going to learn now to play the piano. I need to practice every day or twice every week, but it's going to take me a year or more, depending on on the child, for me to become better in it. And that is the same, as we need to practice and practice and practice, and by doing the same thing, we form new neurological pathways. So what do we see? What is the results that we get with our kids? So we see them, they process information faster, and because that happens, they feel less frustrated in the class. They can now keep up in the class, and sorry, they need fewer reminders. So, everything, this whole situation for them is going to improve just because we can help them to process information slower. So, what they read and what they hear, everything is going to become better. They really have the ability to pay attention for longer. So, the mental fitness, I want to say, it's really much better for them. They can pay attention for longer periods of time, even if it's boring, because they will have the ability, they will not get so tired. So they will then be able to start and finish tasks and be more accurate in the work. Control their impulses. So again, yeah, make fewer mistakes, less risky behavior, and they can have a better emotional control. Then there, filter distractions. So the moment we can filter out everything that's going around you and keep you on task, it's going to improve the productivity, reduce anxiety, lots of noise and things, distraction things sometimes makes lots of kids very anxious, and it's going to help them to stay on task. And then definitely stronger memory. And the moment we've got a stronger memory, they will retain facts better. They will follow your instructions better. Everything is going to become better. Everything that you as a parent help them with, or in a school that you help them with, improve reading, maths, anything like that, learn faster, is going to become better. Critical thinking skills, definitely, because they're going to have more effective learning, better decision making skills, and definitely become more independent. And then, like I said, self regulation and emotional control, because with this, with our program that we also do, is in when we do work with the child and we log into his portal, they've got certain goals that they need to achieve. But they know what they need to achieve, but then also at the end, it's very important for us to have reflective questioning with that child, so that the child can also understand, okay, I did struggle today. What did I struggle? Why did I struggle more than the previous time? Or I did better. Why do you think you did better? What did you do today different than you did the last time? So we help them with that. With that, and understanding themselves more. So this is what I've gone through, is basically the core program of the BioLink and what we do. And like I mentioned, we start at the age of 5 years old. So for the 5-year-old kids, we've got the program, we call the program I Listen, which is basically a combination of the neurocognitive exercises, but only a few of the exercises that a great art child can do, because as I've mentioned, it's really quite difficult for them. But we can already start working on certain cognitive skills like attention and memory and processing, definitely with them. But also we've included an active listening program for them. So the technology is the same technology that we use, but the child then listens to a story. And again, the child must be fully engaged for the story to play. So they will either listen to a story, and then we've got also books that turns over that the child then follows. So we want to work already on improving active listening skills on a younger age, because of the challenges that we have in primary school, especially if we talk about reading comprehension. Listening comprehension is a skill that actually develops before reading comprehension. So we can work on a very younger age level. We can work with the great R's. So we do an active listening program with them, where they listen to stories. But again, like I mentioned, we always want to include the parents. So we've got a whole home program what the parents then do. So it's written in such a way that if the child visits us, they come once, for the younger ones, twice a week. But the parent has got the program that he does with the child at home. And that's maybe things like Simon says, everything in a playful manner, so that it doesn't feel like work. So that is the pre-primary um, program. So that's called iListen. So it's a combination of the neurocognitive and active listening and a teach and the parent program. And then from there on, we can advance those grade R kids to the advanced program where we can now do all of the cognitive exercises and then also a higher level of active listening and note-taking skills. So with this program starts from age up and 6. Again, we do the active listening um, for them. So again, here they listen to TED Talks, depending on the age of the child, what we give them. But we also teach them the ability to start listening and making notes. And it's actually so cute to see even the young ones, even the grade R's, as they progress, even though they can't write, they can listen and make a drawing of what they are hearing. So that's a wonderful skill already that they are doing, is doing two things at once, but doing the active listening here as we added in here for the older kids. And what's interesting here as well, especially for older children, is they will tell us, we give them like maybe it's a 10-minute listening piece that they have to do, but it actually takes them 15 to 20 minutes to actually listen to it because they didn't pay attention, and actually hits home and makes more sense to them. But I didn't really listen. What's going on. And then, like I said earlier, we need to transfer what we do to real life. So that's our academic transfer programs that we do. So what we do here is we use the technology and our program. The technology is the armband is put on the student, but the student is doing maybe a maths exercise or something that he did in school without looking at anything. So while he's doing that, the program will tell the child if he is focused. So if the child then loses focus, it will say focus, focus, and the child must self-regulate and bring himself back into an attentive state. And we do this on alternating when we work with the kids. So this is where they actually become more aware. If I do something, what happens? Why did I lose my attention? But also how to bring it back and keep it there, because the program is going to tell him if I'm focused, good. If I'm not focused, it's going to tell you to focus, but while looking at nothing. So that is the advanced program. And then, of course, we need to take it all the way, because we can't just start learning them brain skills in school. We also need to teach children how to study and when to study. Um, uh, I've developed this course over 12 years, and I've adapted it specifically for children with ADHD. Specifically because we need to break things down in steps for them, and also give them the steps of how to do it. I always tell parents, if they ask me, but why must my child do a study method? And then I will say to them, you do a job. You went to college or university. You learned something to do able to do what you are doing today. So if we send a child to the room and tell them to go study, but we haven't shown him how to do it, how must they know how to do it? And that's actually, that's the problem, is we send kids to the room and tell them to go and study, and they don't know. And that's where we usually get the kids. It's usually the boys. So they read and read and read and try and remember everything exactly like it is. They can't remember it. The comprehension is not there. They can't retain the information and recall the information. And again, rewriting summaries. People think making summaries is the ultimate of a study method. Yes, you need to make a summary, but before that, you need to understand what is it actually, what's the comprehension, make sense of it, and what's really important. That's why kids often rewrite the whole book, because they don't know what is important and what is not. And then we still struggle with the challenge of not having a good comprehension of the material. And then from there on, we need to also look at, but when are we going to study, because of this full curriculum and activities that the kids does. So we've got the two programs that we've got. So we've got the the study method course. And then we've also got we've got the focus formula course. I just want to show you on the study method course, I've written a 12-step program. This is specifically for grades 4 to 8. I've written it for grade 4 to 8 purely because of it's specifically for subjects, learning subjects that I've done. But learning starts in class. So we actually start teaching children in class what to do, making notes on a specific level for them, not on a very high level as we did when we were in university, but a 12-step program telling them exactly what to do, but then practicing each and every one so that it makes sense for them. So it's a specific formula that we formed, and then parents always attend the course, because I also teach the parents the role they play and also how they can assist their children. And then here is the focus formula. So the focus formula is where we then help kids to plan their time and manage their time so that they don't feel so overwhelmed. Our younger kids are totally time blind. There's lots of time to do everything. So even from a younger age, we can start helping children not only to set goals, because they actually do it already. You know, when they say, I've got 60 for maths, and now, suddenly they want to have 80, which is not a very good one, but we can break it down for them. How to set a goal, how to then do a month planner, get a bird's eye view, break it down into a week, into a day, and also teaching them a mental skill called the mental mind matrix. Sorry. Time management matrix, teaching them a skill to know it, to understand when can I do what and how to break it up. And that's also important to teach children this. Then we've got parent workshops. So you'll see during the year, just keep an eye out. You'll see we've got parent workshops, and we give lots and lots and lots of value for parents. So these workshops are free that we do for parents. So it's grade R's if they go to grade 1, how to get them ready. Grade 1, learn through play. So that can actually be for grade 1, 2, and 3. Is how to. This is where we teach parents how to help their kids through play with language, maths, and all those things. And then now you'll start seeing now from this the second quarter now after this holiday, we start promoting the preparing the kids for going to grade 3, from grade 3 to grade 4, because it's actually quite a very good, very big jump, not only for the kids, but also for the parents. And then, like I said, we've got teacher accredited, SAIS accredited teacher workshops that we do, that we then present to teacher groups where they can get then the points. And then we do monthly like this. We do free monthly online webinars is what we offer as a business. The next one, just keep an eye out. You are on our list. If you would, if you say it's fine, I will email you the registration if you want to attend the next one. I'm going to delve a little bit deeper, understanding the brain, the ADHD brain, and talk a little bit about a little bit more deeper about the challenges, why we see it, what happens in brain, the medications, supplements, and everything around that. And then, so I don't know how old you are, but if you are 45 and older, this is for you. So our Stay Sharp, Stay You is our mental brain rejuvenation program, specifically for as we age, because that is something, it's a certain thing. It's like we're getting our eyes get weaker, our hearing get weaker, and our brain also gets weaker. So this is a program specifically aimed at adults and then seniors, where we also use our program, but we also add specific exercises and then supportive nutritional guidelines that we give you. So that in a whole is the BioLink and what we do. So as you can see, it's a lot. We do a lot, but I think we are really the link that can help children and teachers and schools, just to make it much more better for children and parents and actually everybody out there. And that's my story. So I don't know if there's any questions. I will send out that video tomorrow with the link. You can just click on it. It's like a 3-minute link. And then of course you are more than welcome to contact us. There's my telephone number, there's Karen's telephone number, there's our website. If you go on our website, you can also see if there's an agency near you. Hi, Samantha, Bloemfontein. Oh, sorry. Let me just go on. Interesting, Zoe, very interesting. All right. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, please just let us know. Will you send the costing information? Yeah, Julian, yes. Where are you from, Julian? Then I can maybe refer you to an agent in your area. Gillian, sorry, Gillian van der Belpark. Okay, Gillian, I've got your I'm gonna take a screenshot so that I don't forget your name. You see, I also need some extra exercises for my brain. I'll put you in contact with our agency in Van der Bijl, so they will reach out to you. All right, pleasure. Anybody else? Did you learn something? There's hope. We don't have to give up. There's hope for us as well. So, like I said, if you're 45, there's hope for us. All right. If there's no other questions, let me just see. Kylie, thank you. Pleasure. Okay, guys. Interesting session. Are we able to get a later certificate of participation? Yes, I can do that for you, Tamsin. I'm just doing that. I'm taking a screenshot. Yes, so if there's teachers on here, you can just let us know. We can send you a letter of participation. We can do that for you. Princelina, I'll do that. I'm just taking, if there's anybody else. Renee, very informative. Thanks, Renee. Sorry about the video, guys. Riona, I'm taking screenshots. I'm taking screenshots. I'm doing that for you. Oh, Clarissa as well. Okay. All right. I want to invite you to go to our website, that website there, and then at the top, go and see an agency near you and contact one of our agents. They will be more than happy to invite you to their center and do a demo. So you can go and experience the technology for yourself. Because it's one thing for me to explain it and show you, but it's a total different ball game for you to experience it. All right. Tamsin, thank you, Tamsin. Thank you, teacher. There are lots of teachers on here tonight. All right. Okay, it looks like there's no other questions. I'm so glad you guys joined me tonight. Let me just see. I went 10 minutes over. I tried my best. All right. But so happy. And thanks again, you guys, for being here. Yes, Maurice. Yes, Maurice. So remember, tomorrow we'll put the tomorrow or next week. I've got all of you guys' email addresses. Just look out for it. I'll email you with an invitation for the webinar next month that I'm going to do about where ADHD comes from, what actually happens in the brain, what system plays a role, things like the reticular activation system and the loops, and why we see what we see with kids, how medication works, why medication is only symptomatic, what nutrition is actually proven to make a difference. So yes, we'll do that. That's for that one. So I'll make a note here, Maurice, to just make definitely